It was one of those quiet mornings that come after a night of heavy rain when the streets still smelled of wet asphalt and the air felt a little too clean. A small-town cafe sat at the edge of the highway, a favorite stop for truckers, road wanderers, and the local biker club known as the 𝐌𝐢𝐥𝐥𝐢𝐥𝐥𝐢. They were men who didn't talk much, didn't brag, and didn't need to. They earned their respect the hard way, through service, loyalty, and pain. They weren't saints, but they believed in one thing: justice, especially for those the world liked to step on. That morning, 3 of them were there. Jack Malone, the club president everyone called Diesel, a former Marine whose eyes told stories his mouth never would. Hunter, a tattooed mechanic with grease in his blood and a heart that still beat for his late brother. And Ray, the quiet one who rode because silence was easier than sleep. The 𝐌𝐢𝐥𝐥𝐢𝐥𝐥𝐢 didn't cause trouble. They stayed in their corner, sipping black coffee and planning their charity ride for the local veteran shelter. To anyone else, they were just big men in black leather, but to those who knew them, they were guardians of the forgotten. Then came the man who would change that morning. He rolled up in a black Mercedes worth more than most houses in town. Derek Langford, a local real estate millionaire known for 2 things: money and cruelty. He was the kind of man who spoke loud enough for the world to hear, always acting like life itself was a stage built just for him. He strutted into the cafe wearing a designer coat and a diamond watch, tossing his keys on the counter so the staff could admire the gold emblem. He ordered his latte like he was giving orders to a servant. The waitress, Maria, was a single mother who worked double shifts to feed her little boy. Everyone in town knew she hated serving him. Derek had a reputation for humiliating people for fun, but she couldn't afford to lose her job. When she brought the coffee, she was trembling slightly, not from fear but from exhaustion. Her hand slipped, spilling a little on the counter. That was all it took. Derek's grin vanished. He stood up, grabbed the cup, and threw the steaming coffee right into her face. The cafe went dead silent. The sound of the cup hitting the floor echoed like a gunshot. Maria screamed, clutching her cheek as a boiling liquid burned her skin. She fell backward, her apron dark with coffee stains. Derek sneered and said, "That's what you get for being clumsy." The 𝐌𝐢𝐥𝐥𝐢𝐥𝐥𝐢 rose as one. Chairs scraped against the floor. Jack's voice cut through the silence, deep and steady. "You need to walk away right now." But Derek didn't. He toned, smirking at the 3 bikers. "Oh, look, the local charity gang. What's this? The big bad biker's gonna save the little waitress." He laughed, loud and ugly. "You people think you're scary because you ride old Harleys. I could buy 10 of those before lunch." Hunter's fists clenched. Ray's jaw tightened. Jack didn't move. "Apologize to her," he said quietly. Derek stepped closer, still smirking. "You want to play hero? You'll regret it." He walked out, pushing past them, brushing his shoulder against Jack's vest as if to make a point. Outside, his laughter carried through the glass as he called someone on his phone. "You should have seen it," he bragged. "Some biker trash tried to tell me what to do. I threw coffee in that waitress's face and they just sat there." He didn't see them watching through the window. He didn't know the wolves weren't done. Maria was sobbing quietly, and Jack knelt beside her, gently patting her cheek. "You need a hospital," he said softly. She shook her head. "Can't afford it," she whispered. That broke something inside him. Hunter took her hand. "We'll take care of it. You hear me? We got you." They drove her to the clinic, paid her bills in cash, and sat in the waiting room until she was treated. The doctor said she'd have scars, maybe small ones, but scars all the same. When they came out, Maria looked at them with tears in her eyes. You don't have to do this. He's powerful. He owns half the town. Jack nodded slowly. Then it's about time someone reminded him that money doesn't make you untouchable. That night, the Iron Wolves gathered at their clubhouse, a converted warehouse by the edge of town, walls lined with old flags and photos of fallen brothers. They didn't talk much. Justice didn't need speeches. Not gonna kill him, Jack said finally. We don't do that, but he's gonna feel what it's like to be small, to be powerless. They rode out under the moonlight, engines rumbling like distant thunder, headlights cutting through fog. They knew where to find him. Derek was at his country club, bragging to his friends about the morning's funny story. They found his Mercedes parked by the valet stand, still gleaming. Hunter pulled out a small can of paint thinner. Ray handled the tires. They didn't destroy, they dismantled. Quietly, methodically. By the time they were done, the $1 million car was a stripped skeleton of metal. But they weren't finished. They waited until Derek came out, wine glass in hand, laughing with his friends. He froze when he saw what was left of his car, a smoking shell with a single note taped to the hood. It read, "You spill coffee on one of us, we spill truth on you." He looked around in rage and fear, and that's when the wolves rolled in. Slowly, silently, engines growling in unison. The sound filled the parking lot, deep and heavy like judgment itself. Jack stopped his bike in front of Derek. The millionaire's friends backed away. Derek tried to laugh, but it came out broken. "You think this scares me? I'll call the cops." Jack removed his helmet, his eyes cold but calm. "Go ahead," he said. "But before you do, tell them what you did this morning. Tell them you threw boiling coffee on a woman because you were angry. Tell them you bragged about it." Derek swallowed hard, his face paling. Hunter spoke next, his voice low. "You hurt a woman who never hurt you. You thought no one would stand up to you. You thought would be scared of your money." Jack stepped closer until they were face to face. "You're not above people. You're just a man. And men answer for what they do." Derek's arrogance melted into fear. He looked around, realizing that no one, not even his rich friends, would defend him. They looked away, ashamed. Jack leaned in and whispered something only Derek heard. Whatever it was made him tremble. Then the wolves turned their bikes and rode off, leaving Derek standing there, surrounded by the wreckage of his pride. The next morning, word spread. People in town whispered about what happened. How the mighty Derek Langford didn't show up to his office. How his Mercedes had been towed from the country club in pieces. How he suddenly paid off Maria's hospital bills anonymously and donated $10,000 to the cafe staff fund. No one knew exactly why. No one saw the bikers do it. But everyone knew who they were. A few days later, Maria returned to work, her face healing slowly. When she came out to refill the bikers' cups, she smiled shyly and said, "I don't know what you did, but thank you." Jack just looked at her and said, "We just reminded him that decency still is defenders." The wolves stayed for a while, talking quietly, the way men do who've seen too much of the world's cruelty. When they finally rode off, the townsfolk watched them disappear down the road, dark silhouettes against the rising sun. That's how stories like this spread, not through headlines, not through fame, but through whispers. Whispers about men who live by a code when the rest of the world forgets it. Maria's boy grew up hearing that story about how a group of bikers defended his mother when no one else would. Every time he saw a motorcycle pass by, he'd stop and watch with quiet respect. Because sometimes the heroes don't wear badges or suits. Sometimes they wear leather and carry scars instead of medals. And sometimes justice comes rumbling down the road on two wheels. If you believe bikers can be heroes too, share this story